basically have a situation where there's a couple at St. Vincent's Hospital. They're married the day before surgery, or the day after. The court says, well, no, you're not. Well, is that person not legally responsible?
About the only thing they could have done short of what they absolutely do. Tony made an interesting point that they could have said,
I get to look for my wife when I did something wrong.
Hey Tim, how are you? Good. This room over here. Over there. Everyone ready? Good morning. We're here this morning to discuss the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and the formation of the First Church of Cannabis. As we are all aware, an organization has been formed in the city in response to the RIFR Act, in which the First Church of Cannabis has stated its avowed purpose is to be able to smoke marijuana as part of their religious service. Bill Levin, who you're all familiar with, seems to be the leader of this particular organization and the guiding force in its formation. And as you're aware, have stated that they will hold a service on July 1st, which is the effective date of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I have met twice with Mr. Levin as recently as a couple of days ago to discuss with him his plans, and more specifically to propose to him that we could have some understanding as to how this service will be conducted, and if in fact illegal acts occur there, specifically smoking marijuana, as to how that will be addressed and how we would then go forward to take that matter before a court. In these conversations, I have told Mr. Levin of several considerations he should keep in mind, and would share these same considerations with anyone in our community who is considering attending this service and smoking marijuana. Number one, and most obviously, possession of marijuana is a crime under Indiana law. It is a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to 180 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. If anyone is passing marijuana among themselves, among others, they're potentially subject to being charged with dealing, which at a minimum is a Class A misdemeanor. Most importantly, everyone needs to understand that the RIFR Act does not create any sort of immunity from prosecution because it's under the alleged guise of religious practice. Instead, if anyone believes that it is a defense to a prosecution, that's exactly what they have to do, is assert the act as a defense, at which point it falls back to us to demonstrate that we as the state of Indiana have a compelling governmental interest in enforcing the criminal statute. And in that regard, most importantly, what everyone needs to understand is if they engage in this act and they assert that defense and the court disagrees, they've got a criminal conviction at that point in time. Number two, if anyone shows up at this proceeding and in fact drugs are used, that person is subject to possible violation of their probation and in fact are possibly subject to violation of their probation even if they don't smoke marijuana but are present in the room where it's being openly done. Number three, and probably more obvious, if anyone appears at this service with an open warrant, they're going to be arrested. Number four, if anyone operates a vehicle in an impaired condition, they're going to be arrested. Number five, minors in no way should be present at this proceeding if, in fact, marijuana is going to be openly used. And there are numerous implications of that if, in fact, that is the case. And lastly, anyone who's there, whether they use marijuana or not, are possibly subject to being charged with visiting a common nuisance if marijuana is openly used in this service. And I just want to note briefly about the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And what I'm about to say is coming just from me. It does not represent the police department. It does not represent the city of Indianapolis. In Marion County to date, we've had 52 homicides. Our office, our police agencies, have serious public safety issues we have to address every single day. I am beyond frustrated that we are having to devote valuable time and resources to this matter solely because of an ill-advised and unnecessary law enacted by our legislature. As you're all aware, and we've given you a copy of the letter again today, the letter that I penned prior to the enactment of this law, telling the legislatures this is exactly what was going to happen, that people were going to assert this act as a defense to a criminal prosecution. And the act serves no purpose whatsoever other than partisan posturing. Our religious freedoms, our religious liberties are protected by the federal Constitution and state Constitution. And I would sincerely hope that the events have occurred since the enactment of that law, including dealing with this situation here today, would lead our legislature and our governor to repeal this act at the earliest opportunity. Chief Hite.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. I think the prosecutor said it best when he talked about the ramifications and repercussions and consequences for the actions and committing the criminal acts of smoking marijuana or using drugs of any type on the premises knowingly, and those who aid and abet are violating the law. We recognize the First Amendment right under the Constitution. We're not infringing upon it, but we have to recognize there are civil rights, criminal wrongs, and moral wrongs. And the fact that we're strengthening families, rendering this city safe, says to all of us that we really have a mission ahead of us, and that's after a magic question: what's acceptable in our society? We have people from the clergy in this room. We have people who have been writing to us and talking to us about this issue, and they feel it's an abomination. Some of them you have an opportunity to talk to. We also feel it's necessary to say that, and I reiterate the fact that we do have a lot of resources tied into this. But we also have information from the street element that says that they're appalled by this as well. Those who deal drugs for a living has said to us, listen, we're trying to get out of the game. You're telling us to get out, Chief. How can we allow someone to willingly violate the law? So we're very clear about the fact that you don't bring children to events like this. You don't expose the community to this kind of carnage and nonsense. But you don't tie up resources consistently, making sure that our city is safe. We want to make sure that our police officers will be there. We're going to send a message to those who really want to get out of the game and change their life, do that. But as Jim Jones once did in our state, he led a group of people into a place of no return. We don't want that to happen ever again in our history. And we want to send a message. This is not the way to challenge a law. And you certainly can't expect the police to stand by and watch it happen and not do something about it. Thank you very much.
Questions?
When you say potentially will be subject to arrest, does that mean if someone is there with pot in their hand, they will be arrested?
Yes. They're subject to, as a misdemeanor, they can be charged by an outright arrest or by a summons. And so, yes, they're subject to being charged one way or another.
And will you have officers inside the event?
We would anticipate that that would be the case. I mean, and this is what the chief has alluded to. I mean, clearly, if someone has openly said they're going to commit an act that is a crime under Indiana law, then certainly we cannot stand by without being there and intervening.
Is there a concern that they're going to stand behind the law, because Governor Pence, even after the law was clarified, said that this legislation enhances protections for every church, nonprofit, religious organization, or society? So do you feel like, you mentioned they could use that as a criminal
Well, clearly, the RIFRA Act would allow for that. You're exactly right. But again, you know, we will just need to address that down the road. You know, in the first instance, I certainly would anticipate that this is a political act by the church, and that the forum in which it would be heard would be the resulting criminal prosecution, which they assert that this act is protected by RIFRA, and again, then it falls back to us to establish that we have a compelling governmental interest. Yes,
Sir,
I do.
you said that anyone who attends but maybe doesn't necessarily participate in the quote-unquote sacrament, you know, could be charged, you know, with sort of contributing to a nuisance. Are you saying that us folks in the media, if we're there doing our jobs as reporters and observers and commentators, are subject to arrest for doing our job?
Well, anyone who's present, you know, in that sort of setting is subject to being prosecuted or visiting a common nuisance. I guess your defense is going to be you were observing a common nuisance, and so I would.
So we could all be arrested also.
I would. What I would suggest is you openly display your press credentials.
It seems like the church's goal is kind of to pass this law and potentially get arrested and able to, so that they're able to do that. I mean, do you realize that you may be kind of building into this political?
I'm sorry, say again?
It seems as though they're hoping to maybe get arrested in order so that they can pass the law, so that they can use it in their defense.
Absolutely. I think that's clear that's the case. And you know, because they're doing that, I guess, you know, what is our choice? To stand by and let someone commit a crime because we're not going to play into your political agenda, or do we in fact prosecute someone for committing a crime? And you know, the point I've made on occasion so far is, you know, it's akin to situations we've had in the past where there is a political demonstration where there's an understanding at the outset that protesters are going to sit down in the street to block traffic and then subject themselves to arrest. And really, that's kind of what I've proposed to Mr. Levin. If this is your goal and you want this to be a test case, then we can accommodate you. But let's do it in a way that is orderly and peaceful, and then we'll let the court decide. You know, because from our perspective, we will need to know as well, is this a legitimate defense? We obviously do not believe so whatsoever, but we can't unilaterally make that decision. That's why we will have to let a court make that determination.
In your conversations with Mr. Levin, has he made clear that they do intend to openly use marijuana, or is that still being played close to the vest?
No, I think that it has been stated purpose thus far that someone, and again, what I've suggested, if this is going to happen, let's have one or two people do this, and not have a whole room full of people. And so I have not gotten a absolute 100% firm commitment in response, but that has been the basis of our conversation. I will share with you that I have told him that we would be doing this today, that I would share that I've had these conversations with him, and I would anticipate that every single one of you is going to ask for his response. And so, you know, this is the commitment I've asked for from him, and this is the conversation we've had.
Talk about the plan. I mean, you mentioned additional resources will be enacted to this first service. Do we know how many officers will be present? What sort of enforcement? What's that going to look like?
I'll leave that to the chief.
Well, I think it's important to know that we're not trying to create a police state. I think reasonable, intelligent people will stay away, quite frankly. But as any other event we happen to happen in our city, we're prepared for it. I mean, we handle large and small events every day, and this is no different. However, we're making it very clear up front, any attempt to violate the law and knowingly violate the law, put yourself in harm's way, and don't allow anyone to do that. So we do have our plan, tactical plan in place. We will have people out making sure that people are safe. But at the same time, we suggest you stay away.
Does that mean the officers will be inside the church, or are you?
They will be in proximity wherever they need to be. They will be, and making it, again, sending a strong message. This is unacceptable.
Because it's open to the public event, you don't need warrants or that kind of thing, then, or?
Well, we use whatever. We have some discussions with Mr. Curry as to where we are within boundaries. We wanted to talk about again making sure that we have no overstep of bounds of First Amendment rights, but we have to be clear about that. You made an open statement about violating the law, and we have to address that appropriately.
What concerns do you have about
Just like we do at any other event, we'll look at the parking, we'll have a discussion about that. Neighbors have made it very clear to us about that as well. We have to render it safe. There's so many square feet in that area. There's so many parking spaces. So we're taking all that in consideration. We have one of the best people in Commander Freeze and here to make sure that he's done this on many occasions in terms of large and small events, and we're prepared for that. That's the easy part of it, believe it or not. That's what we do naturally. It's the other part of getting to the heart of the matter and people understanding the values, moral values and community values in the law. That's what we're talking about.
Chief Prosecutor Curry talked some about the frustration on his end with all these homicides and teenagers. You know, the last week has been really rough here in Indianapolis. Is it frustrating for you?
It really is, because we have a 30% reduction in homicides. We're safer than we were last year this time. People are understanding. They're coming out on peace marches, bringing about peace and talking about changing conditions. We're taking graffiti down. We're dealing with boarding, vacant houses we're used for flop houses for drugs and all. What does this do in the face of all that? This is someone that knows in people who really are the taxpayers and the stakeholders of our community and turning this city around. Much of our work is being used as part of the 21st Century Police Task Force report that's been viewed by Washington, Congress, Department of Justice, and the President. We are a model for the country. No, this doesn't fit in a modern city that's moving progressively to change conditions in our city. But we saw what happened last week. We've seen the attack on churches. We heard about an arson last night of a church. Is this really what churches are really all about? I thought churches were places of refuge, where people come to get away from that. We have to be very careful, folks, the message we're sending, and that's why we're having this press conference today.
Councilman, back to the central issue of all this. Why isn't RFRA a defense for this? Is this exactly why the original federal RFRA was passed?
Well, it is a defense. The question is whether it is a defense in which you can prevail. And so clearly, the literal language of the statute allows to assert this defense. I think part of that proof will be that they are, in fact, a legitimate religious organization. That would be a factual issue if we have to address it. But ultimately, the basic element of proof is the requirement that we as a state prove that we have a compelling governmental interest that overrides their religious interest in smoking marijuana. And I think that given all the circumstances, we're not going to try that case today, but I think we prevail on that and that their defense fails, and would thus reiterate, if their defense fails, they've got a criminal conviction at that point.
And is it your contention that they are not a legitimate religious organization?
Well, I said that was something would have to be addressed, as part of it. If we get to that point in time, then I think that would be a consideration for the court that's going to hear this, is that these are, in fact, deeply held religious beliefs as opposed to a political statement. But, that's not for debate today.
But you are asserting today that there's a compelling state interest here.
Absolutely.
And just to clarify, so the compromise you're trying to make with Bill is that if they're going to smoke marijuana on July 1st, that only one or two people do so, and essentially those two people would fall on the sword, so to speak, and then see how it
They will be charged with possession, and we'll prosecute that case. And if they, as I would certainly anticipate, assert that it is defense under RFRA, then we'll let the court make that determination.
Terry, in the modern age of what we've all seen around the country with respect to controversies involving law enforcement, the fact that everybody's got a camera phone, social media, and the Chief, you and I talked about this, you made it perfectly clear that you have no desire to provide anybody with cheap entertainment. How do you stop it from devolving into that?
Well, and I think in the first instance, exactly what we've done, and that is to have conversations with Mr. Levin about how can we go about this in an orderly, peaceful way, and then ultimately it's going to fall to our police agency to address whatever situation arises. We would rather that we not even have to address it at all, and I guess I neglected to say this at the outset, but certainly my message to Mr. Levin and anyone else who's thinking about attending this service is just don't do it. And let's discuss if there's some alternative way that we can ultimately resolve this issue. But I have absolute 100% confidence in our police agencies that we'll be able to handle this situation in a way that's orderly and peaceful.
Do you worry that there'll be constitutional challenges say, this law has been passed, it's my First Amendment right to be a part of this organization, which they contend is obviously a real faith. Do you worry that any of this might backfire?
No, I don't believe so whatsoever. I mean, someone can advocate for their position from now forever. Bill Levin has been an advocate for the legalization of marijuana for years and years and years, as well as others. That's entirely his right, and they can continue to do so. They can have an organization called the First Church of Cannabis, absolutely. But if in the context of that they commit a crime, that's not a defense.
Do you haul them to jail, or do you just give them like a summons?
Either one is a possibility. As a misdemeanor, it would be possible to charge by issuing a summons. That is correct.
Even if you're not smoking, you're just there.
Potentially, someone could be charged with visiting a common nuisance, and that person, again, as a misdemeanor, would be potentially be given a summons. Or if the crime's committed in the presence of an officer, the officer has the ability to make an outright arrest.
Is there a way that you can get legal clarification on this without someone going to court?
I think potentially that's the case, but we've not reached that point. I mean, the question has occurred to me whether it's possible for the parties, whether it be the First Church or whether our office could do it. I don't think we could do it. We could file a motion for an action for declaratory judgment to ask a court to interpret the laws that would apply in these proposed factual circumstances. But obviously, we're not there at that point. Where we stand today is their stated intent to hold a service next Wednesday.
Jerry, not to try the case, but when you look at the way marijuana laws have been treated across the country as of late, whether it's for medicinal purposes, outright legalization, even the state of Indiana has sort of restructured the penalties for marijuana possession. What is the state's compelling interest to prohibit the use of marijuana in this context as a religious sacrament? We're not talking about what some other folks have done, which is drug dealing or driving under the influence, which the courts have clearly said, no, that's not part of your religious practices. But there has been case law, at least at the federal level, which has allowed individuals to use controlled substances in certain environments as part of a religious ceremony. So I guess how do you figure all this out?
Well, and I think the starting point is simple, and that is until they tell us otherwise, the legislature says this is a crime. And it's a crime based upon whatever considerations, public safety, public health, and all those sort of considerations. And until the legislature tells us otherwise, it is a crime in the state of Indiana.